Welcome to the Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farrand of the company Horns of Odin. As always, before we get into the show, I do have to plug our Patreon. It's literally the lifeline of the show. It's how we keep going. If you can, pop over to Patreon/Nordic Mythology podcast. It starts from £3 a month. You get a bonus episode every single week, which comes in the form of our Q&A episode with our guests. We sit down after the show's finished, an extra 20 minutes, half an hour, and the patrons get to ask some questions. You could submit them in real time or ahead. And they tend to be a lot more lighthearted, fun. We have a real good time. And yeah, there's a lot of information that we miss. Me and Mags often miss questions, and they're just that bumper. So if you like an episode, there's that extra add-on to any show that you've got. So please go and check those out. You also get our Discord server. You get early access to all the episodes. There's a heaps of stuff. So go and check it out on Patreon/Nordic Mythology podcast and give us a 5-star rating, positive review wherever you get your podcasts. And like a lot of episodes recently, go and check out our YouTube channel. Hit the like, subscribe, the bell, the notification, whatever it is you need to do. Make sure you get the updates of the episodes, because a lot of guests are bringing visual elements lately. Last week we had an absolutely incredible episode, and yeah, that's definitely a visual one, and I think this one will be as well. As always, Luciano always brings lovely pictures. So go and, if you're listening to this, I would recommend hitting pause and just going over to YouTube and watching it versus listening. But obviously, if you can't, do stick around and listen. But let's get into the show. I'm joined, as always, by my lovely in-house archaeologist, Mags Havgar.
Hello, everyone.
And our guest today is reoccurring guest. He's been on here a few times, and every time leaves me jaw gaping, I guess. Sounds kind of...
It leaves you aghast, agog.
A gasp. What's the word? A gasp?
Awestruck.
Awestruck. Yeah, let's just go with that. Leaves me awestruck. Every time it is amazing. I'm always thinking,
with good reason.
Yeah, how do you see the things you see in the artwork? I don't think there is anybody that knows more about this artwork than you. But as a quick introduction for anybody who hasn't heard Luciano before, Luciano Pezzoli has a bachelor's degree in art and has been a reenactor since. And were you an actor from 1995 to 2011? After which he pursued Viking art research, learning the guiding principles of the later styles with Eric Sandquist, who's a jeweler and rune carver. He runs the Children of Ash, which is involved with several universities and Scandinavian historical centres. And recently, you have written a peer-reviewed chapter, which was reviewed by Lesha Gadewa and Sophie Bonding, on the Oseberg Wagon, which is what we're going to talk about today. Luciano, thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I felt I said so many words in that introduction. I'm so sorry.
You got through it, man.
We got there. Yeah, so like I said in the introduction, your episodes are always incredibly fascinating. And for anybody that skipped me in that first little bit and didn't hear this disclaimer, I'm going to say it again now. If you're listening to this, I would thoroughly recommend that you hit the little pause button and go and check us out on YouTube, because this will be a visual episode, same as the one we did last week with Ryan Eckerson. You will get more from it because Luciano's work is incredible, but it's definitely best seen so you can understand this story and kind of see where we go with it. But yeah, how have you been since we last spoke?
Oh, I've been very busy with lots of things. Yeah, the last one, as you wrote on the message to introduce the episode, I'm working on an article about the Salme ship burials from Estonia.
Mm-hmm.
And they are writing a second book about it. So they asked me to make a detailed breakdown of the most fancy swords that were found there.
Amazing. I'm so psyched for that.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. It's like mind blowing.
Do you feel like, I guess this goes back to previous conversations we've had, and I think we had on the podcast. Do you think that you're now finally getting the recognition that you deserve for the quality of and the time that you put in? Because I know you said before, because you necessarily haven't gone down the scholarly route of doing the PhD, that not everybody's always listening to you. But I know when anybody listened to the episode with Lecia Gadewa at the end, he was very positive about you and your work, and said you should have an honorary PhD.
Well, Leszek is extremely perceptive. He was probably the academic that was the fastest to pick up on what kind of decoding techniques I'd been working on. So he understood super fast what I was working on. Whereas in other situations with other academics, it's a bit more complicated. It's sometimes it's taken me up to 9 hours of Zoom calls to get through.
Yeah. Do those doors seem to be opening a little bit more now? Once you get one on your side, is it easier to then get others?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I have a good collection of very interesting archaeologists that we're working with, and right now I'm working with the University of Tallinn, and I'm on the same book that's going to come out about the Salme soar or Salme burial in general. There will also be an article by Jan Bill.
Okay.
That you had also there. So I'll be in good company again.
Fun. For those of you who have listened to the podcast, Jan Bill is the guest on the episode. I can't remember the number now, but the episode about the 120th Oseberg anniversary that we recorded this summer. For those of you who might have thought you recognized the name but didn't know where from.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Let's jump. I think we should just jump straight into this, because as always, I think it will be. There's a lot to get in. Let's put it that way, because as always, you're going to take an item that a lot of people will know. I think last time, did we do the Kamin casket?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Bamber casket. Yes,
yeah. And you completely changed how we look at that and showed us all these lovely stories. And we're going to do the same thing, I guess, with the Oseberg Wagon, which a lot of people will have seen. Maybe not for a few years because it's not been on display, has it? But hopefully it will be again soon. But a lot of people will have seen it. They will know of it. They will have seen pictures of it. Particularly I think like the cat scenes is quite iconic. I know that's kind of used a lot of places. And you're going to tell us how it's all wrong. What everyone thought about it before was maybe wrong, and there's more to it.
Well, actually, I mean, it's like I'm very happy that you did your homework, so you know what we're talking about and where it's going. So you'll be able to ask me quite specific questions about it. But the interesting thing is that the archaeologist that was in charge of actually describing the artwork at Oseberg, Shetelig, actually described the wagon and its carvings as something that didn't match the rest of the collection and didn't match anything in Viking art in general. So he actually spelled it out in 1920, but it just didn't have the comparative material to actually attach them to. But because, I actually followed his hunch, really. I didn't debunk anything as such. He already thought that it was not really something, that it was just out of place. Everything else really matches in form, shape, and everything. And as I developed, I started redrawing it, because that's what I always do. I don't have any bias when I go into looking into a wide scale or large scale ornamental structure. So I don't know what I'm going to find. I don't have any stakes in it, and that helps me a lot, because I don't look for anything. I just look to understand what's in there. So I actually the article started because I was I was asked by the National Museum to write an article for the Norse Sorceress book. And I just, went a little bit overboard. And
I love that.
Because I went like, okay, now I'm going to write an article about the origin of all the craftspeople at Oseberg, which is work that could be done in about 5 years, I think.
Oh, me on my third year, I would say that I would give it maybe a decade.
Yeah. Yes, it could be done
well,
faster,
depending on
but,
whether you include the textiles or not. If you separate them, then I think you'd have 5 years each.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a bit of a large bite I took, and but I started nonetheless. And well, as I was reading through Shetterlig's description on the one side, I was reading the detailed description of the wagon, of everything that's at the Oseberg. So it starts with the ship, and the next item is the wagon. So I start with the wagon, and I started reconstructing it. So I was doing my own research as well as comparing it to the standing state of the art.
Just to jump in, I wanted to point anybody towards your Instagram so they can maybe get a better understanding of exactly what you do. So go and look at Children of Ash on Instagram, and you'll see the work that Luciano does. It's effectively, I guess, taking an item and then you're tracing it. Feels like it's demeaning, but it's that kind of idea. I guess you're recreating it, you're looking at it, you're getting super zoomed in and redrawing it.
I would call it visually reinterpreting it.
Yeah, it starts. It all depends what kind of visual language you are working with. It starts with if I'm dealing with a visual language that I haven't encountered before, it starts by tracing, literally.
Yeah.
So it's like really, really, you're like as humble as you get.
So you'll take a let's say, for example, a panel from the wagon. A flat image of that, you put it into something like Procreate, and then basically redraw over the lines that you can see, and then I guess time over each layer you're getting deeper in and deeper in, and then separating things up by color, and then creating wonderful stories and unlocking languages and everything.
Yeah, because as you go, you start understanding also the specific language of the maker. So you start seeing also what is damaged. You can see the bits that are damaged, and you can't really, the lines that aren't there, you actually can put together. So that where the carvings are shifted because of the movement of the wood, etc. So you can actually reconstruct that. You start, and you really walk a ton of miles in their shoes. And then afterwards, it's like with the Kamin casket, that was the first one that I actually did extensively. And at the end, there were certain parts that were not visible, and my hand was filling in the spaces before my brain could get there.
Is that because you're doing it so much that you kind of
Yes.
just knew where
Exactly. Yeah.
the line was going to flow to next?
Exactly. And this is something that you can't learn on books.
No.
No, you have to do it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm cautious that first of all we'd run out of time because it's
Yeah.
we've got a lot to get through, but also
course.
to try and keep this as a standalone episode, I guess. Can either one of you, I guess, give us a quick rundown of maybe like what the wagon is? So obviously we don't have time to talk about the Oseberg ship as a whole, but inside
Of course.
the Oseberg ship burial was a wagon, and
Yes.
can we quickly say like what the wagon is and maybe why it stood out different?
Well, all right. As I was going through the descriptions and everything, I was redrawing everything. So we've gone through the way I do things. But as I was doing things, I was noting all the things that didn't, because as you start noticing things, because you don't keep it in a vacuum. It is a very, very clear context. You know, it's like the whole Oseberg collection is a very clear context. And I know it rather well because I've been working on it for 6 years. You know, it's like a maniac. So so every part that I was redrawing, there were certain characteristics that didn't match the general way of, you know, like of the characteristics of the art in the rest of the collection. But the wagon.
Luciano, before you go more into your description, would you be okay if I just gave a brief, like, for those who might not have heard about Oseberg before? So Oseberg is an extraordinarily well-preserved Viking ship burial found in Norway, which found in 1904. And what's extraordinary about it is the fact that it's so well-preserved, since a lot of stuff that's made of wood, especially here in Norway, deteriorates before we have a chance to get to it when it's that old. But in Oseberg, it's been dated to around, we think the burial was done in 834 AD. So it's well over, like it's closing in on, what the math, 1200 years old. And the ship was pretty much intact. Well, it was smashed to pieces, but the pieces were there. And then the second largest pretty much complete thing besides this little chamber that was on the deck was a wagon, which was dismantled. And the wagon, along with the ship and many, many, many other things in this burial, were just, they were so richly decorated. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but try to imagine just like the quality and essence of the Fabergé egg, just Viking age, like that's what we're talking, like just exceptionally well preserved, and the artistry and the variation of stuff is just magnificent. And that's where the wagon comes in. And I am not 100% sure about this, but I believe the Oseberg wagon is one of the only, if not the only, fairly complete wagon we still have preserved from the Viking Age, which is why it kind of stands out. But then, as Luciano has already mentioned, and which we'll get more into now, the style on the wagon sticks out a bit from the rest of the burial. Go ahead, Luciano.
Yes, all right. So this is a picture of the wagon. Well, it has been argued a lot about what the wagon was about, if it was functional and how it worked, and there's a lot of discussions about that it couldn't turn very much, but I don't think that is extremely I don't know. I don't think it's extremely important in that sense. What's very important about it is, of course, the carvings, and well, as Mags will testify, there are also wagons on the tapestries that are described, like depicted on the tapestry of, So we know it was a rather important item that was also used in ceremonial context, as it looks in from the tapestry. Well, the carvings are very, very different from the rest of the art in Oseberg, in that, well, there's a lot of things that don't match. First of all, you can actually recognize imagery. You can actually tell what is what. So in the individual creatures that you see on the wagon, you can actually recognize as specific individuals with a clear identity, which is something that is not the case in the majority of the artwork contemporary. Mm-hmm. It's
is it different? Because obviously I think a lot of people have heard of the Oseberg style of art as well, and I guess that comes from these items that were found inside the Oseberg ship.
Yeah.
But is the wagon then different from all of those items too? So you have all the items that are maybe a similar style, but then the wagon is again unique.
Yes, absolutely. It's completely unique. Well, you need to consider that in Oseberg, there's a number of different items decorated in different ways. I had, from the chat I had with Jan Bill, he was telling me that there are something like, I think, if I remember correctly, 5 sleds, and four of them are ornate, so like are carved. And the top part of the sleds don't match the lower part. And actually, I noticed it from the artwork already, but he confirmed that. He said they're from different sleds. So it means that in their collection, they had at least 8 to 10 sleds.
Okay.
So and all these represent a number of different expressions from that period, from the period in which they lived. It's not one style, and I insist, and I keep on hammering every time that somebody talks about Oseberg style. I think it's absolute nonsense.
Oseberg style does not exist.
No, does not exist. It's an invention. It's a bit like saying that the music at Woodstock in 1969 was Woodstock style.
That's a really good comparison.
So is it Melanie Kafta, or is it Jimi Hendrix, or Candid
Janis
Heat?
Joplin?
What is it? Yeah. What are we talking about? Which is which?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's a collection. So these women were powerful enough to get whatever they wanted from that period. And we are fortunate enough to actually get a sort of, it's like a sort of review of different expressions that were going on at the same time. And within that, so within that cutout of that period, the wagon stands out completely. It doesn't make sense with the rest. It doesn't make sense with the rest of Viking art in that period, for several reasons. One was that, for example, that you can actually tell the characters. You know, you can see a humanoid with hands, legs, heads. You can even see other kind of creatures with all their paws, and you can see birds, you can see snakes. They're all very clearly defined. Mm-hmm. They're not like, what the heck is going on there, kind of thing, which was more the rule at the time, because they were actually yeah, they were expressing, but that's a very long story. So
I was wondering,
brief.
Luciano, do you have a picture of either any of the sleds or any of the animal head posts easily available to compare? If not, I can pull some up.
Yes.
Because I was just
Yes,
thinking
please
about what
do.
you said, because I think that when we're talking about, like, both you and I have worked with looking at stuff like this for a while, right? And to us,
Yes.
the back of the wagon is very easy to discern different motifs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think that for someone who isn't used to looking at stuff like this,
it could all look like chaos.
it could all look like chaos. But if you compare it to, for example, like anything else, really.
Yeah, this is for example.
Yeah, see, there you go. Because all other stuff is, it's almost like it's like tangles. Like if you have like a skein of yarn and then all the threads are just like, see, there you go. This is what we mean.
So that's, yeah, this is the, let's see if you can see the original around it. So this is a partial reconstruction. So you've got all kinds of
by the way.
bits and pieces. So you got like a bird's head.
For those who
over
can
there.
tell, there is a bird there, I promise you.
Exactly. There's a bird's head over here and another one over here. Yeah, but they're all blended in a sort of a maze of characters, because they're more like characteristics within a creature rather than separately identified imagery. So that's one of the things that you see there.
Yeah, so in comparison to that, the wagon, the figures on the wagon stand out more clearly. Yeah. Like you don't have to hunt for them in the same way.
Even without the reconstruction, you can see.
You can kind of tell it, like, oh, there's like a face here.
There's certainly like a human towards the left-hand side. You can see a very humanoid figure.
Yep.
Exactly. So all these creatures and stuff. You can even tell the type of dresses that they're wearing, which is very, very particular of that time. But also, there are other characteristics that the use of the frames, the framework of these panels, so this is the front panel of the wagon, and it's very unlike anything Scandinavian from the Iron Age, because what was an extremely strict thing about it was the framework. The framework was, it's like a sort of musical notation. It's how everything is sorted in space. So you first had a space to fill, and then came the imagery inside. Here it looks very different. It looks more like it's much looser. So in this panel there are actually a number of frames, but they're so loose that you can hardly see them. So and that made me think, like, this is another type of language. This is another type of ornamental tradition. It comes from somewhere else. It's not the standard, and that also clashed with what the hypothesis that Håkon Shetelig, the archaeologist that wrote down about all this artwork, hypothesized. Well, to his defense, he didn't have a lot to go by to actually find something similar to this. It's the framework is very loose, very different from what you see in general. And what he hypothesized was that it had to be a religious imagery that had to be copied strictly adhering to the dogma, say, that followed this picture. And he ascribed the original artwork towards Vandal art, towards the 6th, 7th century. And there is one enormous flaw there. On the whole wagon, and we'll see it when you look at it in detail, there is a problem with interlace.
Okay.
With not work.
So is that's like the unders and overs for people like me?
Exactly. Yeah, knots.
So meaning that the way that they made knots would not wouldn't fit what would have been done during the Vendel period. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, how good are you at drawing interlace?
Okay, see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
I'm asking you. It's really
me. Crap. I am not good at it at all.
What's like? Okay, so imagine you are a craft person at that time, and they tell you have to put interlace in that work besides all these creatures. What would you do to get away with it?
I would make loops that would look like knots, but maybe wouldn't be knots.
But what's the minimum? You know, if you want to fool somebody to make something look like not work, what would you do, Dan?
I would just go over and under, and.
But what kind of structure would you construct?
I guess just in a sense of like a very kind of curved loop, and then one that kind of just goes under and over, back on itself. Mm-hmm. Maybe like a figure of 8 almost. I guess something very kind of simple.
Yeah, maybe like a second element, like if you have two different things that it wouldn't be like a complete knot, but something that would go through a loop so that it would look like a knot, but like maybe not actually be a knot. Probably
only using 2 strands as well, I feel. I feel like 3 would just throw me off. I'd be so confused. I've tried drawing knotwear before, and I think that anybody that ever looks at Viking art should just try draw like a bundle of knots. It's really fucking difficult.
Yep.
Well, what is the knot work that everybody can do? Everybody, anybody.
I feel like you're drawing us in a particular direction, and I want to give the correct answer. I feel like I'm doing like a quiz, and I want to answer correctly, but I don't know what answer you're looking for.
Think of hair.
A braid.
Yeah.
A braid. Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's what they did.
So they just drew braids?
Yes. They couldn't get much further than that. And that's mind-blowing. It's just like all these people were masters at knot work. Vendel artists would chew Viking artists for breakfast, really.
Okay.
So it's like...
That's throwing some serious shade.
Oh yeah, I mean, trust me, like they were like, woo, beyond. So this archaeologist was saying like, okay, these people that were like hyper masters at interlace couldn't really do anything not like. So you see at the bottom.
So it's almost like a giveaway that like it's a giveaway that this is something from someone or somewhere else, because if they were of this period of these people, this is something they just would know.
Absolutely. There's no, but not only, that was my problem in my investigation. And in my article, unfortunately, I didn't have enough room to actually to explain all the passages.
Typical. Yep.
an enormous amount of stuff. But, you know, I found myself with all these characteristics, and I was like, where should I look, you know? So like, who does that? So who doesn't have knotwork in their animal art? So I looked around, and practically everybody in Europe was pretty good at that. They were good in Britain. They were good on the continent. They were good at that in, you know, even Slavs were pretty good at that. And so I was running out of options. And I looked up, I looked at Samis. Samis didn't do animals, so they you know, it had to be animals and no knotwork. And that was, yeah, there was not enough of a tradition to actually justify something so complex. Because it's not only that you find the right characteristic, but you need to find them in the right amount, and you know, so
yeah, and whether there's enough left from that time period to even make a comparison too.
Exactly, and so I looked into, well, one of the last civilization I could think of. I looked into Finno-Ugric art, thinking about Finns. But Google gave me like an enormous amount of animal art without knotwork that was not from Finland. So I looked into it, and I discovered a civilization I knew virtually nothing about, which was the Permians, which are a Finno-Ugric civilization from West Siberia at the foot of the Ural Mountains in Russia.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was really interested when I was reading your article. I was really interested, like because like one thing is reading it academically, right? But another thing is like in practice, how did you get there?
Yeah,
that's so cool to hear that it was that you were looking specifically for animal art without knotwork.
Exactly. And this kind of art, like, you know, like I looked at it for quite a while. These people were, it's quite interesting because they were also, just like Vikings, they didn't write. And they were being excavated at the same time that Oseberg was being excavated. So Shetterly couldn't by any, you know, couldn't possibly know about them. And they found hundreds and hundreds of amulets. And these amulets have a certain type of context.
So we have a wagon that doesn't fit the rest of the items that it's buried with. The art style appears to be, I don't know if copy is the right word, but like a mimicking of Viking art, but not quite.
Yeah,
it's got the knots, but they're not.
I feel like to me, it's
proper
like
knots.
It's the style. Okay, let's see if you can follow me on this. To me, the wagon looks like what it to me sounds like if I'm, for example, at an airport and I hear someone speaking, I'm like, oh, I feel like I can understand that. And then I realize I can't actually understand it, but it sounds kind of familiar. And then I realize it's Dutch.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So it's like on first listen, before I concentrate, I'm like, oh, that's kind of what. And then as the more I get into it, I'm like, I know this is actually quite different, but it sounds on first listen very similar to a language that I do speak, but it isn't actually.
Or like somebody from America trying to listen to a Scottish person.
It's like, you?
It's English, maybe, yeah. Like, it's English, but
sorry to all our American listeners. I'm sorry that we threw you all collectively under the bus. We didn't mean to. It's all love.
but like it's English, but kind of. It's like not, but is.
Yeah, exactly. And it had a lot of specific characteristics. Let's see. Also, it fit. Let's see. Yeah, here we can have a few. So it's a lot of amulets. They found
Amulets
an
meaning
enormous
things that would be like pendants on like a necklace. Is that what you mean when you say
No,
amulets?
they're very strange amulets. Yeah, they could be pendants, but they were very specifically found around shrines or sacred sites of
Okay.
sorts. So here are some of these, and so this kind of art.
Okay.
Can you see? Oh, can you see it? No.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very different to like
There you
what
go.
people would think of as Viking art.
Absolutely. But you see, they're very figurative. There is no knotwork, whatever. Nothing at all.
This is probably really offensive, and it's not meant to be, but it
Mm-hmm.
kind of looks like Aztec-y style to
Yeah,
me.
it could be.
But
Yeah.
For somebody who studies that kind of
But
art,
I mean,
that's
that
probably the most offensive
I
thing.
wouldn't say that's offensive at all because Aztec
No,
art is
absolutely.
insanely good. It's just
It's really
very
good.
different.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is rather different. And the interesting thing is that what what is not true for Viking art, actually, especially in this period that is so figurative and one-to-one with the symbols. So what you hear all the time, you know, it's like they ask you, what is this? What kind of animal is this? Well, in the Oseberg period in Scandinavia, well, it's really hard to tell because it's a bit like saying what kind of animal is a centaur specifically or a manticore. You know, it's like, yeah, it's a lot of stuff, you know, and it's not only a physical thing, it's also an interior thing. So there's a lot of stuff. But in the Permians had this thing that they depicted their totem animals, so to speak. So you actually see totem pictures. You see specific animals being depicted. Very often you see moose, for example, here at the top of these. There's three humanoids here, right? And then
There's a moose there?
yeah, at the top, over the two heads of the humans, there are two unprofile moose heads.
Oh,
That's
so on the,
you see?
as in looking at profile. So there's
Yes,
two.
exactly.
Okay, I'm
Two
with you. Yeah.
profiles. Yes.
Yeah.
So here are the eyes, and here's the ears. So you've got what they did a lot was these amulets or these bronze figurines with a cosmos, you know, so with a cosmic picture, a cosmogram. So
Okay.
they've analyzed it to be something of a depiction of practically everything. So
Okay.
everything, so you'd have the underworld, which is very much, very often depicted as a lizard or a beaver.
Oh.
And then
Well,
you've got, yeah.
why the poor beaver getting sucked into this? Like they
Well,
were
why is the underworld necessarily bad? We don't know whether the Permians thought the underworld was bad.
Exactly. It's like, yeah,
That's true. That's true.
and then you've got the mid world where we would be. That is usually symbolized by humanoid figures of different kinds. Sometimes clearly humanoid. Sometimes humans with wings or different types. And then you've got the upper part, which is very often depicted by heads of moose.
Okay.
It's a very interesting
What
characteristics like that. Yeah,
what
again.
makes people decide that they're moose? Because I'm
Well,
looking at them and I'm like, that doesn't look necessarily like a moose to me.
No, I'm very sorry about the pictures because it's very, very difficult to show. Here you actually see a lot of those. You see the heads here.
Well, we can't
Like the
see the cursor
snout.
since you're on
Oh,
the
sorry.
PC.
of course.
But
So at the top, you see, well, what you've got, like here's a number of humanoids.
You know what? Now
oh,
I
yep,
see them now. Yeah.
yep,
You
yep,
see
yep,
them?
yep.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
never doubted you.
You see them? No, it's okay.
Never doubted you, Luciano. Yeah, but I
So
see them now.
if I interpret this correctly, these would then be. Nope, I'm not going to say that because I might be showing off my own ignorance and mixing different animals. So I'm not going to say that. Scratch that from the record.
Okay,
These look like moose doing a can to me. Does
Yeah.
anybody else see that?
pretty much. But actually, the moose heads are on top of humanoid heads that have their faces looking to the right.
Like little
You
hats.
see?
Like
Yeah,
a moose,
exactly. So moose heads.
like
sort
a
of
moose berserker
thing.
is what I was thinking.
Yeah, sort of something like that.
That kind
So-
of typical image of a berserker with the bear.
Yeah, exactly. But the interesting thing about Permians is that they were depicting very clearly one-to-one what they were, what we imagine as a totem animal. So that picture is much closer to the Permian art than it is to the Viking art.
Okay.
Exactly.
So when you look at the Oseberg Wagon, you're seeing a closer link to the Permian art.
Absolutely, very, very strong. Because, well, you see also all these amulets are usually bordered by these sort of strings, like sort of ropes and stuff. And if you look at the wagon,
Yep, you have the
on
famous
border,
rope border.
Exactly, rope border, in the same sense. So, all right, let's jump into it so I don't waste all your night.
Not wasting anything so far. This is super duper interesting. And what is also super duper interesting for me personally is that Luciano and I have had this talk before, actually, more than a year ago, where you were so kind and showed me your illustrations before the article came out. And I am having so much fun going through it again. This is
That's awesome.
just so wonderful.
So this is the front panel.
So the front meaning, like, if you are looking at the wagon, the way that, like, the place where
that one.
Yeah, where the horses would be tethered.
Yeah.
So that's that part you're looking at.
Sure.
Perfect.
Cool.
All right. Well, I need to explain a little bit of how I came to understand all this. I redrew the whole thing. And
big props, by the way. This is great.
Thank you. At a certain point, I started understanding that there was some connections between parts. So it wasn't a loose bag of animals put together. Previously, the interpretations were about only certain parts of the certain conglomerates that were identified at certain pictures. And I tried to look at the whole thing because, for example, this part was interpreted as Gunnar in the snake pit. But it really, I don't know. It sounded a bit weird to me because it looked like a loose image. I mean, Gunnar in the snake pit, with all the due respect, is a sort of a side spin on a not really relevant story if you talk about the most central object in the collection of such two powerful women. So
sure, and it's also just a third of the panel.
Yeah,
exactly. So it was.
I think one thing that stands out to me as soon as you put this up and you've reconstructed it and you've got the different color sections, I look at that and I'm like, that looks different to other Viking art that I've seen. Even to me, that I'm no expert, but I look at it, I'm just like, it's a lot looser. There's a lot less going on. Like when you look at things like the Bamba cascade and the Kama cascade, like they're so detailed in such small areas. There's
And it's very like almost like tight.
yeah, there isn't
Yeah.
there isn't a gap of like the background. Whereas with this,
Exactly.
there's quite a lot of background there, and these little
Yes.
bits placed in it. And when you put it like this, you can really see that kind of openness to it, which makes it look so different.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, there another characteristic was that what Scandinavian art is really meticulous about is the scale of detail. A certain size image would have a specific amount of detail, and it wouldn't shift in detail. So you wouldn't have, say, like if you look on the snakes, you've got rather a rough patterning on the
Yeah, and some
body
don't
of
really
the
have.
snake.
Some almost just have barely a little bit.
Exactly, and but then you've got like in some parts, like the profile of the humans, there is so much detail, you know. So you've got like a contrast in of different scale of detail in the same picture, which is an absolute no-no in Scandinavian art, generally speaking.
Okay.
The scale is strict as the frame is.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that everything is afforded the same level of detail.
Exactly. You don't have large, rough parts and very detailed bits at the same scale.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think even looking at the face on the human looks more like Slavic to me from things that Leszek had brought before. Maybe I'm completely off with that, but that's the feel that I get. And then also you say about the structure, the layout. This looks kind of messy. Things have just been put where they fit. Whereas again, when you look at the caskets you've done before, you have a panel. There's it's segmented up into strict. So if you were to, I guess if you were to do this, there may be 3 segments, and there would be like one in the middle and maybe one at each end where it curves up, and that would have a piece of art that is made to fit in those segments. Whereas this looks a little bit more haphazard, like we can fit this here, and then the next part of the story can kind of go here, and then we're left with this space. And it's a little bit more like that than structured.
Yeah, and also that kind of framing that you see in this panel goes a lot looser in other panels. So there's a different type of there's an inconsistency in the framing in the different parts of the story, because it is an actual story. It's just that it's structured in a very from a different standard, a standard that had a much more loose sort of form. The interesting thing that in the end it looks as if it is a Scandinavian story, but told through the eyes of a different civilization, which is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, that is cool as fuck.
Are we ready to jump into what the story is, or?
Well, it's like the last thing about it, because you say otherwise you'd think like how the heck do you get there? The framework, the colors that you see that divide the frames are dictated by the gripping of certain beasts. If you look at the left side, you've got these blue purple beasts on the rim, right? That are connected to the serpents around this humanoid, right?
Yeah.
But after that, they are severed from the yellow part in between. The only thing that connects those 2 parts is this foot here.
Okay.
So it's certain gripping, so certain beasts or creatures.
almost like those types of mazes that you had in like magazines and stuff where you have to find your way through.
Yeah.
It's like figure out how this all fits together, and the only place where they interlock is that one foot that you zoomed in on.
And
Or like a comic, like a comic with an arrow that indicates that it's going in this direction rather than this other one.
so if I'm looking at this correctly, is that you're almost saying that you go from where the humanoid figure and the blue beasts, and you kind of go, if you're telling a sequential story, down from that through that gripping leg to the yellow. And then when I look at it, the only next part that kind of touches the red section, which I guess is next, is the other leg.
Yes,
of
at the bottom.
That same beast, which goes then down the snake to the red one.
Exactly.
And that's the only part that touches that section, and then on to the next.
Yeah, and look at the top section, the yellow section. On going towards the right, it's severed. It's now it ends. It's not connected.
Yeah, nothing touches, nothing grips. It kind of
it's a dead end.
Except that leg when you go back to the other side.
Exactly, and that's where the story continues. So
it's a cul-de-sac.
Yes, exactly.
So it's a way of following the story to kind of showing you where.
Exactly. So the composition actually tells you the mechanics of the story.
So cool.
So that's
unless you're never going to see that, because I imagine looking at the original wooden image, it would be so difficult to see. You're only noticing this when you've gone through, hours and hours and hours of reconstruction and zooming in and changing things and drawing, redrawing, and
not only you actually start understanding it when you're at the end of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you look back. And you say, wait a second, this whole story revolves around snakes.
Okay, yeah.
It's like, hold on a gosh darn minute. What have I been drawing this whole time?
Exactly. So everything, and then you start looking at the composition again. So you see the connection. Then you see that the snakes have a very important role to play in this. So there are lots of characters going on, but the snakes are very central. They hold, it's the key to read the story. It's the theme of the story. So you see it also from the fact that every frame, so these loose frames, has 3 snakes in them. So you've got 3 snakes here, right? You've got 3 snakes here, and you've got 3 snakes here. So at the beginning, snakes are a lot more, 10.
Yeah. Okay.
But then, it looks as if they're all centered. So the snakes are the cathartic force, what holds things together.
I guess you would have 10 if you had the 3 at the end, the 3 in the middle. So the 3 at the very end, 3 in the red one at the bottom, 3 in the yellow, and then this one being gripped by the foot. Would that be, or does that count as the 10?
No, the 10. Well, you have 10 here around the man.
Okay.
Then you have 3 here, 3 there in this frame. And you have 3. This is so easy with an iPad. And we have 3 here that are around the center.
I was just wondering if you had those 3 together and this one at the bottom that the
yellow
beast
one.
But he's grabbing the yellow. Yeah, I wonder if that would make.
The yellow one is the only. That will make 10, and it's the only alone standing snake, really.
Okay. Except maybe the one in the belly, I guess.
Yeah, the ones in the belly. But that's the here there. It's the development of the story. This is connected to the back. You can actually see what's going on in the back. So I'll tell you the sort of what it looks like. Then you can tell who is who in the story yourself.
Okay.
So there seem to be these blue creatures start at the top left, and they are very small at first. All right? But they, as opposed to the other creatures in the rest of the pictures, they are very aggressive. They bite into everything they can bite.
Mm-hmm.
They can bite into themselves, they bite into each other. All right? And they follow their own story along the side of the wagon.
They get progressively bigger.
Exactly. They get bigger and bigger. So they get stronger and mightier. But they are somehow, you can actually see, they have a big hand in a very literal sense in the scene of the humanoid and the snakes. They actually, there is not only one gripping, there are four. It's really, they are involved big time in that part. So
So could it be that it's just one? I don't know what it looks like, a weasel or maybe like a wolf of some sort. But could it be that it rather than it's a group of beasts, it could just be one beast going from like pup to adulthood, kind of like growing up.
It could be, but it's they seem to have different physiognomies. Some have a shorter snout, some a longer. So they seem to actually be a group, like a sort of a tribe,
Okay.
And so they develop and become bigger. And at the same time, it's a bit of a Tarantino story. So you have you have two storylines going on together. So at this point, you've got this humanoid that is being attacked by the snakes. And I thought, when I looked at the end of the story and came back and was trying to interpret what snakes could be about, especially because they were the central part of the story, I thought, could it be that they are representing some sort of energy, some sort of what we would call some sort of magic power, what in Star Wars would be the Force?
Mm-hmm.
You could see it later also in how it develops, but and I thought, could it be that this humanoid that is not really on the floor, it looks like it's floating around. These feet are actually, they're not standing anywhere. I thought, could it be that this were a proto-giant, like Ymir, for example?
Mm-hmm.
And these snakes are the energy that tear him apart to produce creation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and the interesting thing is that in Permian art and folklore, there's something connected to the frog. The frog was depicted on the doors of nurseries, places where people were born. So it's as if it's there to, there is this frog that seems there's only one frog in the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
As if a birth is being indicated.
Yeah, because there's also a snake inside the person.
Yeah. exactly.
or on top of, but it seems to be inside to my eyes.
Yeah, you'd kind of think it's inside, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Also, is there, Luciano, are there any other examples that you know of a frog being depicted in Viking art?
No, not really.
Because
No,
I can't think of it ever
Me
hearing
neither.
of a
No.
frog.
no. Though there is in Permian art is a staple. I've encountered several. Yeah, and they're very similar to this, by the way.
Yeah.
So what happens next? Because I don't want to keep you all night. Is that let's assume that this is the proto-giant being torn apart. What comes next is a sort of cat-like humanoid.
Mm-hmm.
That
This is a weird comment. I don't know why. I feel like that little cat beast there, she's got like a little something about her. I feel
A
like
little Jessica Rabbit action.
yeah, she's like a little sexy kind of like twisting the head, and she's like sticking
The
her butt out
pose
a
is a
little
bit like,
bit.
hey,
Yeah, she's like sticking her butt out a little bit. She's like really working
Cheeky.
the opportunity. Yeah, I don't know
she's just
why.
happy to be here.
Yeah, I looked at it's such a weird thought when you were looking at the screen. I'm like, that's a sexy little beast, that one there.
Well,
What's she doing?
you're not very far, because she's got a very important role in there. Well, what happens here is you have a sort of a depiction of a balanced creation. You've got the snakes and a variety of creatures around that are, yeah, exactly. Michelle Pfeiffer as a Catwoman.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, but that could very well be. So it was, and she is part of this harmony. This, it's a balance. So you've got birds, you've got other creatures of all sorts.
It's so frustrating because whenever we do these episodes, it's there in front of me to look at, but I don't notice it until you say it. Because I've been looking at this image for however long, and I've just seen beasts. And to me, they all looked the same. And then as soon as you said they're all different, they all represent different animals, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, they do. Like there's the cat lady, there's the one above that with the head turning back, there's clearly different. With the almost looks like it's got a headdress, a bird type one, a little critter on the bottom there, a bird in the sky. And it's like, to me before, they all just looked exactly the same. And then as soon as you say them, it's like it just unlocks like a shroud of blurriness.
Well, yeah, because this isn't a language that you've been taught to read, is it, Dan?
Well, no, that's true.
Me neither. Like, I guess I have like a leg up because I'm used to looking at stuff that's kind of dissimilar from the art that we have today. But at the same time, the way that Luciano's explaining it too, I'm like, while this is happening, having continuous like, oh yeah, because you're right, because I see the yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He kind of looks like a flamingo, the one on the right hand side, doesn't he?
Yeah, right. It looks as if it's a picture depicting variety. It's like different, difference. And so how does this progress? So you've got certain balance of creatures with this sassy cat woman. But who participates to the whole, they're all connected. They're not really, like it's all nicely balanced. But from the left side, so the blue-purple creatures who are getting larger and larger and are still aggressive, they look as if they're being gifted one of the snakes by this sassy cat lady.
Okay, yeah.
And, it looks like it also because it's the only snake that is completely, disconnected by other parts. It actually works as a link. It links this storyline of the creatures, the aggressive predators getting larger, and the cat lady, and then how it proceeds. Because the balance image, the yellow one at the top, it ends there. It's over, Yeah. It doesn't continue anywhere. So the story goes on. So what we get next is this. So we've got two very large predators with gaping jaws, biting at everything, but specifically they are actually targeting, well, the first one on the left specifically is targeting the snakes.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's quite interesting because they're also the only creatures that have empty insides that are being shown, you know? So
that are
like
hollowed out.
These gaps, yes.
Yes.
Exactly. So as if they're indicating like they're filling these holes.
See, that's a good thing that you pointed out, because me with my Scandinavian animal art brain just went, oh yeah, because like sometimes the midsections are hollow because like of something. But then again, I'm like, that's not necessarily the style I'm looking at. So
Exactly. But yeah, it's, you know, I looked at the others and they are not that empty, you know. So it looks as if they're indicating. So that's why how you actually tell that you have a different language going on, you know. But actually we get a glimpse of what the Scandinavians thought, because Permians were much more literal about their construction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very fortunate connection of cultural expression, because otherwise we would, you know, the Scandinavian structures are much more cryptic, much more, you know, if you know, you know, if you don't know, you're out.
Yeah. And
you don't know, fuck you. It's like,
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And even with the snakes, how they don't really go over and under. If this was
Exactly.
if this was like
exactly.
a Viking piece, that top snake that's going into the to the beast's mouth would then go like underneath the body,
Exactly.
and then it would wrap around the other snake, then back up and come, you know, under again and back up. It just wouldn't kind of lay on top like that, and
Exactly.
kind of goes underneath the other one, almost lazily.
You see? Now you're starting to get it.
Also, I
Exactly.
guess the patterning on the inside of the beasts doesn't look like anything that I've seen before.
No, exactly. And then, yeah, please go on, Max. What were you saying? Oh, hello?
Are you there, Max?
Sorry, I lost my audio.
Oh, it's okay.
Right.
It's back now. I was just going to say that I have seen that patterning, but not necessarily in that way.
No, exactly.
Yeah, they're like little triangles. You see them on like bracelets and things.
You see them. Yeah, absolutely. You see that you see in Vandal art a lot, but not in that density.
Yeah, not in combination.
No, and not as a decoration of animals like that, like in parts of animals, and then changing patterns. It just doesn't happen like that. There's much more consistency in that.
And then again, you only get the one point touching the next section.
Exactly. And what happens here is very, very interesting, because we've got another cat-like creature. And this cat-like creature is doing something very interesting. So first of all, it looks as if there is a bird that is telling something, giving away a secret, an important piece of information.
A little birdie told me.
Exactly.
It really does look like a cat.
Exactly.
The face on that really does look like a cat as well.
Yeah, right.
And the cat's like, shh, I'm listening.
Yeah,
Exactly.
look at it.
Yes, and what happens is that the cat tries to pull out the snake that these beasts, these predatory beasts, are internalizing. So what's going on here is that the other creatures use the snakes as a sort of a center to, you know, so something to live around, you know, so it's an external balancing thing. But these predators want it for themselves. They want to have it inside.
Right.
They
Okay.
get it,
So
you know.
in other words, are you telling me that the cat is pulling that snake out of the butt?
Yeah, very literal.
Cool.
Very
Yep.
literal.
It does
That's
look
that
like
because that's what it looked like. So I just wanted to, call a spade a spade. Is that what's happening? Okay, cool.
Exactly.
but
Absolutely.
it is like half in, half out.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh, imagine someone pulling like something out of your butt like that. Oh.
So, but again, just to point out this rule that you had of the things touching, you have the red beast touching the cat, and you have the snake that kind of touches it, but it's not gripping. It's not kind of.
No, exactly.
But then you have the cat gripping the snake, and the only thing of that snake that's touching the beast is the snake going in its butt.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it follows the story on again. So again, you only have this one point of contact.
Exactly. And what happens here, what you get here is that, the attempt of the cat, the regret is too late because the snakes have settled into the predator's body.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They look evil there as well, don't they? They look like little shits.
It also helps like the color that you gave them.
Exactly, right?
Uh-huh. It's kind of coded into our cultural kind of like, that means bad vibes.
Exactly. So it looks like like international politics nowadays.
But also, if you look at your rule of 3, there's the one that the cat pulled out. So you're left with 2, and then you're left with 2 inside the belly. So
yeah, but there are 3 there. And they're sort of in and out. And, so it's more like they are central to in between the creatures somehow, like compositionally.
Oh, is there 3? There's 3 in the belly. Because what I was wondering was whether it was showing that the 1 had been pulled out, but there was 2 left. And maybe those were the 2 that were still like in the stomach.
No, I think that this is actually another, the last frame.
So just a different beast that's eaten.
Exactly. So this is, this has 3 in it. So it's a separate frame technically.
Yeah.
Should have given
but
it.
Isn't it? I might just be fooled by your color choices, but isn't it? I'm just trying to follow the loop. Isn't it 2? Inside the tummy? Because the reason I'm asking is because wouldn't that also just with like the whole imbalance thing, wouldn't that imply a coming imbalance?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like
that in that last part you do have snakes, but now suddenly we have only 2.
Exactly. Yeah, there are 2
and they're trapped inside the tummy of this beast.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that's pretty much the
I mean, I'm just spitballing here.
Structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's like you could speculate a lot about things, but it's like
you're never done.
The general structure looks like that. Let's say.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think this is super duper convincing. It makes a lot of sense.
And then you go to the back of the wagon. And here, it's the story unfolds into sort of a drama.
So I have like a preliminary question.
Please.
So does that mean that since we haven't looked at the side panels yet, that it seems that the side panels are their own thing and the front and back panels have like the story is connected somehow, but not necessarily to the side panels, or am I just way wrong?
Well, the side panels are connected, but it's like what you're looking at in the front panels. Yeah, the front panel is the
start?
The story as it begins.
Yeah.
And it looks, from what it looks like, it's having this proto-giant being this, torn apart.
Sure.
It looks as a sort of a depiction of the creation myth.
Sure, absolutely.
So you have the beginning of everything,
Mm-hmm.
And on the other panel, the back panel, you'd have the end of everything.
See, okay, I got it. Yep, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So on the sides, you have a different type of flow. You've
Sure.
got these beasts going into, well, that's why
Braids.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what I was telling you.
Because I didn't want to mess up your flow. I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding the sequence correctly.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's like that's exactly what you do. It's like it's braids.
Braids.
You see?
Yeah.
When you don't know.
there are like braids in multiple levels.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Exactly.
the beads are like the beasts are braids, and then also there are braids inside the beasts.
Inside
it's
the
a
beast. Yeah.
braidception.
Exactly, and it looks as if they're depicted in in connections, as if it's if the braid as if it was the braid of time, practically. So you've got the beginning and you've got the end, and this is what goes in between.
It almost gives me like a wave feeling.
I was thinking wave.
Yeah, like the way that water kind of flows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why it looks
or
so
roots.
much. And it's differently organized as the front and back panels, and it's divided in two layers.
Yeah.
Very, very neat,
Right?
very clear
Exactly.
layers.
Exactly. And I was just, pondering about what would that mean? And I was comparing also with the Permian amulets that depicted the cosmos, the everything, right? So you've got the lizards at the bottom, and hey, surprise, surprise, here you got creatures that very much look similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, very similar creatures. I mean, even also the Permian lizard-like creatures have ears, so that's not a problem.
Okay.
But also, it almost seems like an interesting type of hybrid in the sense that Scandinavian animals can be reminiscent of like quadruped, like carnivores, but be just extremely elongated and stretched.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like this hybrid, like, please correct me if you think that I'm way off base here, Luciano, but it seems to me like, because the thighs and the forelegs of these beasts really remind me of both the cats, but also those kind of malicious beasts that we saw in the front panel. That it seems like taking a tradition of having these snakes at the bottom, but then also understanding that in this other style, they use the same type of way to stretch like other types of beasts. So like this weird kind of amalgamation of the two.
Yeah.
They're all very similar little hands as well.
But
Are they cute?
Very interesting because these creatures are never actual snakes. When you see snakes, you see snakes.
Exactly. That's why that made me think of it.
Exactly. So these are elongated. It looks as if they are exaggeratedly stretched to as if they need to explain to depict and express the passing of time. So you've got they are stretched through time. They are covering everything.
It's almost like DNA.
Yeah.
Look at like that kind of is it helix? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Also, Luciano, when people say, or I've heard the term like gripping beast art, is that what this is?
Well, yeah, you're talking about a different culture, so with different rules. So yes,
on a technical level, sure, since they are gripping.
Yeah.
But there is a different type of Viking art that's a gripping beast art that's separate to this.
Well, there's one. Well, you know, you've seen the animal head posts, right?
Yeah.
The famous animal head posts, and I can show you one. That is there is one. Let's see if I can. Yeah, this animal head posts
Yep, there you
with
go.
these creatures.
Mhm.
This is practically the blueprint for Boris style, technically.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's
And you
very,
also
very
have it
much connected.
inside the ship with those like ghost-like
Mhm.
human-ish figures.
Exactly.
Also, they're also like gripping, clutching.
But
I-
these are like little animaloid kind of creatures
Yeah.
of, you know, that look very much like the Boris style legacy later on, you know?
But even you showing that as a comparison of like something that's similar, like that gripping style, you can see straight away how compact that all is. Everything's
Exactly.
fitted in. There's no space for like background, even where the legs.
Almost Tetris-y.
Yeah,
and
but
where
you also see that here you're, you know, even the grippings, like the neck here and the arm, it's like the negative space. It's a pretzel shape, you know.
and
So
everything is
you're
going over and under, and
absolutely,
there's
yeah,
that not
yeah,
work within it, which you're not seeing in the
definitely,
front and back panels.
absolutely, yeah. That's very much the case. And all right, so we were right. No, we were on the side. The other side actually has some
Yep, that has that.
humanoid pictures, and it's quite interesting because here they differentiate the creatures much more. So like here the beasts look very much like the Permian you know, underworld lizards. While on the panel above, you've got all kinds of creatures. Here you got again a
they almost
cat-like creature,
and they
here you
seem more
got like,
violent somehow.
Yeah, like they're in a
exactly,
battle.
They're in a
exactly,
fight, like the
exactly.
choker grip.
Yeah.
While it's being
exactly.
while the one who's like choking the other is like being bit in the
Trying to
face.
bite it, yeah.
Yeah.
It does have that feel of
Oh,
a
snake!
Exactly.
struggle.
And the snake, yes, and one snake.
I saw it.
One
Woo!
snake, yeah.
What I was thinking was like comparing to the Permian art, and where they were obsessed with these cosmographic uh, amulets, in which you very clearly have a division between the underworld, the mid world where we would be, and then the higher dimension. I was looking at this, and it looks, you know, as if something was missing. So you've got the underworld, where you have the same creatures. You have the crocodile-like creatures. Then you have the mid-world with more, yeah, predatorial creatures from the central, you know, the place we live in, even some humanoids. And I thought, where's the top part? Where's the heavenly parts, so to speak? And then I thought, it's inside the wagon. So what is inside the wagon would be the most sacred thing. So that would be the highest of highest. So you've got the three layers. Two are represented, but the third is actually inside.
Have you drawn the is there anything on the inside?
No, there's no imagery on the inside, but it seems from there was another interpretation by now I have to remember the name of this archaeologist that was also.
Are you talking about Brugger?
No, it's a lady.
Anne Steningstad.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, and she was talking about Tacitus and the wagons that were used for rituals that were covered, and they held inside the wagon the sacred, the most sacred imagery from.
Okay.
So the wagon would contain the most sacred things and imagery.
Could it be that the wagon transported these two women to the burial site? Is that possible? That maybe
It has been hypothesized.
Could have been used.
there
yes.
is only one wagon, so I guess that maybe the bodies were somewhere else because they had to get to the ship. So
I'm
maybe
trying to think.
in a ritual
but
setting, they transport.
Look, they were not made for the burial, if that's what you're thinking. They had signs of wear and tear before. They were
like
not
many other things in the burial. Yeah.
exactly.
So it's not like a pyramid type situation where everything is made exclusively for the burial.
Mm-hmm. But could it? Okay, I was just saying, could it just be like? But could it be like that? It's a burial.
But I'm
wagon
also trying to
that they
think
used,
of
almost like a hearse.
I'm trying to think of the size of
That
it.
could have been. They could have used. What they found in it was stones, large stones, and a loom.
Yeah, and it because it seems because the wagon was also it was purposefully taken apart, like dismantled when it was put inside the ship, almost like an IKEA chair. Like it was, but that you would be able to put it together again.
Mm-hmm.
But it was dismantled, and the stones, if I remember correctly, have been interred because a lot of other stuff in the ship, among those the ship itself, had been partially crushed, not just by the weight of the mound, but by stones and boulders. That it seems to, a part of the burial seems to have been throwing rocks and large stones into the burial to kind of destroy it. Which has been interpreted as making sure it could no longer be used by living people. Which is that's one interpretation that's been made.
If that's the case, they didn't do a very good job.
Oh no, absolutely not. They were
fortunately
for us, they were extremely haphazard about it. But I'm also this is just me getting extremely technical, but I'm just thinking about the inner size of the wagon carriage itself. I mean, I guess you'd be able to fit them in. I don't have the
absolutely.
measurements in my head, but I think
in comparison to the horses, it looked.
I think I have a. Let's see. No,
I guess my thought was just that we have hearses today, and that's kind of.
I mean, it would make sense. I'm just trying to think, just technically. You could. I mean,
looking inside here,
you would definitely be able to pile them on top of each other,
definitely.
but the wagon isn't that big. But at the same time, the women weren't that big. They were only like 150 centimeters tall.
Yeah, but consider it was not used for that. It was not built for that. So
it wasn't built for that. No.
Already had been used as a ceremonial thing.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing that it could have been. Probably. It might have not have been used for this or been built for this burial, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't built for a burial. And I guess what I was thinking was that because you could pile it full of hay, the bodies don't have to go in it. If it's like a ceremonial thing, you could pile it full of hay or dirt to bring the level up to the top, and then lay the bodies on top, so they're kind of on shore. But it's a way to bring them to the burial place, like we do with a hearse. Like you have the horses bring them through, so it doesn't need to be able to go great distances. It just kind of brings them in this ritual setting to the burial area in the way that we, like I said, the way we do with a hearse. You get the body, you put it in, and you take it to the place of rest. It's kind of like a ritual.
It could be, but
it was one that was used for other burials, and then for this one, they were like, okay, well, we're going to leave it.
I think we should also be careful not to lock our mindset as something ceremonial being solely burials.
I don't think it was.
I'm just building off of what Dan said. I'm thinking to your point, Luciano, that I think ceremonial could be a plethora of things, many of which we can't even fathom.
Yeah, I was just thinking more that upper layer being that then
100%. I think
that you can, especially if you fill it and the bodies are visible on top. It's like you have the.
I'm totally down with what you're saying.
The middle, and then maybe.
I'm totally down with what you're saying, Dan. I just think that, to Luciano's point, it probably wasn't built for that specific purpose in mind, but it probably could have served that function.
Yeah, it could have been used for that.
We don't have any evidence of that being the case, but it could absolutely have been used for that function.
The evidence that, well, I mean, it's like this archaeologist lady found was the connection with the descriptions by Tacitus that, you know, like that they had ceremonial wagons inside which they carried images of their gods, so to speak. So that would be in that idea. So things that and they would be covered. So they would not be visible by everyone. Okay. And that's pretty much what you see also on the tapestry. The wagons are covered. They're not open like this. They're all, you know, they're all, you know.
They almost seem like chests with wheels on them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what they look like in the tapestries.
So let me finish this because so we've got this picture, which is, well, this is the most cryptical part of the image, of the composition, let's say. And it's been interpreted as, you know, as this woman here being one of, hypothetically, one of these seeresses, and because of the dressing, and that's what they supposed, and that is an option. And the action looks quite interesting because there is this man in the middle who is wielding something like a blade, like a, and it's threatening this other human on a horse who is strangling a ferret, but as you do.
To me, it looks like a wife stopping her husband doing something really stupid.
Yeah.
She stood there with her hand on her hip like, don't you fucking dare. And she's like got him by the wrist.
Yeah. Well,
it's like, calm down.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is also that in the Oseberg burial, there are some hints at male stuff without there being male bodies. So there are shoes, and there is a saddle. There's a male saddle, one only. And also on the tapestry, there is, if I remember correctly, or at least if I remember the description correctly, that there is only one human that is actually sitting on a horse, and is an oversized. Is that correct? Is that
no? There are a lot of examples of people sitting on horses.
Yeah, but there is one that leading them, and it's particularly large.
On one of them, I am going to let you finish your point because I don't think that I think that figure has been misinterpreted. I'm not convinced that it's a human at all.
Oh, okay. All right. But
but unpublished results, so please go ahead.
Yeah, all right.
my results are not canon yet.
No, I mean, this, you know, it's like this is the weakest part, but it seems like, you know, it's like it's the only creature, or the only humanoid in the whole composition which is on horse.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a connection possibly with a royal figure as being the one rider, as if the seeress is in some capacity protecting this royal figure on a horse. That's as far as you can get. Is a very loose thing, but there are some connections from the objects found, etc. So that could be the case.
But also to your point, Luciano, about this being a not necessarily Scandinavian style, I was just thinking about it when I was looking at the horse, is that the depictions of horses that I've seen not just on the Oseberg tapestries, we have a lot of them, but also in other cases of like cast little figurines and everything else. The tails are usually longer, and they are also usually knotted.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the tail on that horse is very dissimilar to what I would expect a Scandinavian animal art. Well, not those depictions aren't necessarily animal art as such, but as of Scandinavian origin, like culturally.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look at the head of the horse.
Horse is also extremely different.
Very, very different.
All right, should we get to the
let's
back?
get to the back of the,
because we're 2 hours in.
Oh, I could do this forever.
I know.
Don't apologize, Luciano. It's not like we've stopped you. We're having so much fun.
So what happened? So recap.
This looks horrific.
Yes.
I love the little cat in the corner going, oh wow.
Exactly. So this is very graphic. So what we left on the front side, so the creation where things went wrong, is that these predators started being, continued in their aggressive spree, and they seem to spread this this negative outburst of snakes.
Oh, so it is like a disease or something.
Yes,
where
exactly.
there was on the front we finished with one of these beasts having the snakes inside.
Exactly.
And then now you look at it, you have the beasts
completely filled
with the snakes. And you have the little kitty cats with their hands on their head, like very Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, like, oh my God, what's happening? They're in shock.
Can I also just make the silliest little comment? When I'm looking at all of this and like the snakes coming out, I just keep thinking about there's vomit on his sweater. Mom's spaghetti.
Oh yeah, Eminem comes to mind.
Eminem, lose yourself. They're all losing themselves apparently.
This little guy in the top right-hand corner with the hands on the head.
Interesting. Yeah, but look at the other one. It's connected with. It's trying to, it's like
it's trying to pull out of the butt.
Yeah, it was trying to get the snake out of its mouth. It's like it also the cut out of the side cut of the head is very, very realistic in a way.
And the snake's like there. It's in the mouth. You can see it. It's.
So and
remember to get your worm shots and get your pets regularly checked.
Exactly.
That's what it makes me think of.
And that's what's it's like that's what happens. They sort of spread out, biting everything, even biting into each other from butt to mouth.
Mm-hmm. This
is what happens when you're not vaccinated, guys.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So you have the one cat on the left that's like full of snakes. He's like he or she is surrounded by the beasts. Their friend is trying to get the snake out of the mouth. It's pretty horrific. Then you have the other snake with the hands on the other cat with the hands on the head and the snakes inside. And then you kind of have this group of cats that they all look terrified.
They're like, oh, fuck, shit, no, fuck, shit, no.
It's like a group of cats all like, holy shit, what's happening? They've all kind of got their hands on their head, wiping the sweat away from their brow. They look scared.
And the very interesting thing is that something that you don't see anywhere else, they're looking outside the picture.
Yeah, they're looking
at you. They're looking for a way out.
Yeah,
please, sir, help us.
Yeah, they are.
So they're really looking at you. So it's very, very theatrical, very, like breaking the
fourth wall.
Yeah. Exactly. But you have one of them there to have a snake in.
Exactly. So it's
kind of spreading.
It's a sort of like just before the end. Technically, they are surrounded on all sides. They have nowhere to go. They're actually asking you to help out from outside. And they're.
I'm gonna feel really bad next time I see this wagon in person. I'm gonna be like, I'm sorry, guys, I can't do anything.
I know. Could it also, Luciana? I'm sure you've looked at this, and this could be a silly question, but could it be coming from like the other direction, from like right to left, where you have like the two cats in the corner? and then you have like the one beast with the cats in the stomach as a continuation.
Yeah, and then it almost seems to
that could be.
getting worse and worse and worse.
And then you have all the
could-
cats like scared with one in the stomach, and then the end, it's just like
It could
fuck.
pretty much go from both sides, actually, technically.
Because I think that's like more like
Compositionally.
a progression from that right hand side to the left. It's like a progression from like, holy shit, they're here. There's the one, then there's the cats all together scared, and then it's like we're just fucked now. They've got us.
That's a pretty good one, yes. So it looks as if there is a sort of a moral story to it. So that the snakes are a creating force, and if you have them on the outside and they regulate what goes on, energy-wise, so to speak. But if you get them, if you want them for yourself, then things end up like this.
Mm-hmm.
They become a sort of disease.
So in conclusion, don't be a selfish asshole.
Exactly. And it's like, there is a couple of speculation in who these beasts could be. It's like there have been speculations about these cats being connected to Freya, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the first part, you get the cat giving this magic, so actually handing it over to these aggressive creatures who may be the Aesir, potentially.
Okay.
So
Or is it trying to restrain it? Or is it trying to hold it to like, it sees that it's gotten a hold of the snake, so it's trying to hold it back?
Yeah, well, it looks a bit quite leisurely for that, It's like,
Well, I mean, sure, yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to like play both sides.
If you look at this one, this looks much more in a dramatic
Absolutely.
kind of
Absolutely.
pose, trying to get things out. But there is more to this, and what's more is actually continuing on the idea of snakes. And these snakes, because the snakes are not only in the wagon, they are also the main theme of the ship. The figurehead is also snakes, and they also found a sort of a wand made of sort of like a sort of a hollow wood with grooves around it at certain intervals. So imagine two parts of wood with a groove for a string to hold it together, and which looks very much like the two poles that connect the wagon to the horses, and they are shaped somewhat in the shape of a snake, and they are also segmented along the way. And what is interesting about, so you'd have sort of head forms there. I'll show you in a photographic form that is a bit easier to, no, where is it? There you go. There they are. You see?
Yep.
They look very snake-like, don't they? And what you have at the end, you have two masks. Mask-like figures.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering about those, because we have a bunch of masks on the wagon that isn't necessarily part of the panels.
Exactly. Yes, they are on the outside. Yes. But and these have a very particular kind of compositional structure. Well, this part of interlace is where I actually was sure that these people were not Scandinavians. Because what you see, this is where they reached a bit too far for what they could do. So here you see the braids. Now that they could do.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that they could master.
Sure.
But then they got to this part in which you've got entangled creatures. So you've got some beasts here. It's like looking upwards with the neck on the side, on the left side, and then you got paws. But
Do you have a drawing of this, Luciano?
Yes, absolutely.
It looks messy to me,
Yes.
and I think like to most
There you
people,
See, there we go. Yeah.
to most people, knotwork probably just looks messy, I guess. But when you compare it
it's
with
not.
this, you can tell that there is some structure to other knotwork. Then to this, it just looks
Exactly.
something just looks off when you look at like an AI picture now, and you're like, there's just
Exactly.
not
Yes.
quite right.
Yes.
It's just a little bit funny.
And that's why I think that they actually, if it was made by Permians, which would match their stylistic forms, it's, the question was raised also, where did they do it? Was it made by the Ural Mountains and transported to Norway? And I don't think it's the case, because these complex interlace attempts look very much like something that somebody that was not proficient saw the real thing,
And then
but
attempted.
and
It's
wasn't
almost like they're
able to.
playing homage to the style, but they're not a master of it.
Yes, but they must have seen it, because this is somebody that was trying to copy something they didn't understand the rules of.
Yeah.
So they made a sort of impression.
Yeah.
Okay, I
It's like if you hear a Beatles cover, it's like they tried their best, but it's not going to be as good as the Beatles.
No.
Exactly.
I wonder, we're 2 hours in. I wonder, we kind of finished the story. I wonder if we kind of wrap up the main show now, and then
1 second, just one last second. I wanted to say one last thing, just
and then I was going
to show something, and then I'll give you.
And then we'll do like a little Q&A after for like 15-20 minutes, where
Of course.
we could, because I would like to delve into how you think this thing got to Oseberg, and maybe and I think that would be fun to save for that, and people can come and
Absolutely
listen to the page if they want to hear more. But please do.
One last thing. So you see these masks here, right? So you've got this mustached figure, and then you've got this other mustached figure that you see on top, from the top. So you've got these
they're not even.
Yeah.
Wait, are those like humanoid masks but animal-esque jaws?
Yeah, the on the side of the if you look at the originals, you'll just see these, right?
The two guys, yeah.
But on the inside,
there's like
they share the eyes with predator jaws.
like
That's really cool.
So
it has the little canines and everything.
It's as if they've got those beasts that are biting into the snakes. Inside them.
I'm pointing at the screen as if you could possibly know where I'm pointing at.
Yeah, I see it now. Those two middle ones, they're as if they've been turned sideways.
They are, and the interesting thing is that they are on the inside, literally. So you can't see them from the outside.
Wow. And there's nothing on the other side?
No.
Oh.
It's a little if you know you know thing going on.
Well, it's as if they are indicating that inside these people. So like theoretically, this could refer to specific Aesir figures.
Sure.
That have this beast inside that bites into the snakes. because the whole pole
Is a snake.
is the snake, so it's being bitten on.
Yeah.
So from the inside.
It's so interesting because I think like for a lot of people listening, they may be like, it's not that it's a stretch, but it's unusual because we're so used to just reading words for stories. And I guess you have like comic books, but they also have words in. We're not used to, we're talking about people that didn't have a written language in a sense of like they're going to write a novel or write a story down. So obviously that would be told through artwork and in different ways that we're probably not used to seeing today. It's not typical for us. So it might seem like unrealistic or unusual to us today but that's because that's not how we tell stories.
Well, actually, these stories, I mean, it's like the story on the wagon is particularly obvious from it's like from a compositional point of view. It's like the standard Scandinavian stories of the same period are much more cryptical. So this looks like one coherent story from the beginning to the end of time. So yeah, and you can discuss.
And then it goes in a circle.
A lot, so you can discuss into all the details, what this means and that. But the general composition really seems to point at the story of everything from the point of view of some sort of religious magic power, or you name.
Yeah, I guess though it could just be that they're more cryptic because we don't know what it is. But to them, if that's how you're used to seeing your stories and you know the story, you're probably going to see it straight away. Or you're gonna know it because it's like that. Oh, that's what that is. That's how we do this. But to us, because it's lost, we're trying to like figure it out.
It's almost also like this happens on a lot of different planes, I would think now, and you'll have all different subcultures. But it's almost like also if I were to show my grandpa some emojis and being like, what are these emojis? And he'd be like, yeah, that's a peach. And I'd be like, yeah, but what could it also be? He would have no way of knowing that could also mean an ass. Like why would he know that?
Oh, the eggplant.
Eggplants?
Yeah. I was trying to go for the PG-13 version, but sure, let's go for the eggplant. Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess also though, to a degree, and this might be a better one. I'm sorry, Max.
Oh no, please go ahead.
The monkeys with their eyes and their ears and their mouth covered. A lot of people today, younger people, they just think that's a monkey with its eyes covered. Like, oh, I don't want to see that. They have no idea of the three monkeys: hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. They don't get that reference because
why would they unless someone has told them?
Yeah. So to them, it's just a monkey being like, no.
Oh no, I don't want to.
Yeah, but to people who know, it's like, oh no, that's part of this.
It's a bit like rhyming slang where you cut off the rhyming part.
Yeah. Or like Cockney rhyming slang. Like if you know, you know. If you don't, then
you're out. Yeah, exactly.
Figure it out. All right. Let's wrap it up and we'll let people ask some questions and we'll get into maybe why you think it got there, because
absolutely
we've been a while and I appreciate your time very much, Luciano. As always, this was fantastic. It's so insightful. I messaged you today and I'm like, I don't understand how you see these, but then again, it's because you're working with it for hours and hours and hours, and when you're recreating it, you're going through the same steps, I guess. Maybe not in the same order, but you're going through those steps and you're going to stumble upon things that you just don't see by looking. And I
Yeah,
think
it's a bit like a crypto, like those crypto,
Cryptogram, is that what they're
yeah,
called?
with numbers.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I guess it's
Like that numbers correspond to letters, and then you start, so
Yeah.
when you see them again, then you start filling in like, oh, all right, this means this, and this means that.
yeah, and I imagine that can be extremely frustrating trying to then tell people about that, because you can do all the drawings, all the different colors that you want and explain it to us in a certain way, but we'll never feel it how you feel it, because we can look at it and we can go, okay, that makes sense. And there might be sometimes where we're like, I'm not too sure, but you in yourself know, because you're like, I just know. You just kind of just got to believe that, like, because I've done this and drawn this, and I've like the muscle memory and all, I just know. And you can't give that to somebody. You can't be like, feel this that I feel because my hand moves a certain way, because it just does. That's just how it flows, and you can't always explain that.
Well, unfortunately, I have to do it with, in academic sense. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's not very very reliable. But it's like you need to reconstruct the way, like to work your way back, because it's a bit like like having a very complex equation, and you say, well, the answer is 42. And everybody goes, yeah, sure, but I believe, yeah, but
How did you get there?
how did you get there? It's like, I need the procedure, otherwise it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean anything,
I just
But I
trust
also
people
think-
smarter than me.
But I also think that, like, on a bit more of a positive note, I think that what your work really shows, Luciano, is just the importance of visual interpretations and visual aids.
Mhm.
Like, words can give us a lot, but sometimes there is actually real value in having not just a picture of the thing, but a reinterpreted subjective illustration of that thing, because it shows your process, like with how you have sectioned and colored, because it gives people a way of understanding where you got. Yeah. So I just think that's so cool. Like, especially you and I have had this conversation before, but especially as someone who's a bit more of a novice in this field, but also works with, similar tools as you. I just think it's so cool to see the way that you work, and just it really reinforces how important it is. Not just important, because I feel like that can sometimes get a bit like sound a bit trite, but how, what's the word that I'm looking for? How useful it is. Like it's purposeful. It gives us something that we wouldn't otherwise have had.
Yeah, it's like, well, I've been thinking, I mean, it's like I don't have a lot, an enormous amount of time to actually dive into, like the standard academic way of working with things. I can do what I do, and I can develop that to an enormous degree. And I'm working with lots of academics to actually develop that into text and everything. But what actually I find much more interesting is actually to reconstruct the visual procedures through which these imagery were imagined originally and designed, so that they can be displayed in museums, for example, in exhibitions.
Yeah, that would be
The idea,
excellent.
yeah. So that if you even have nothing to do with Viking art in no way, like you get to that museum and you get keys to enter that. So you don't need to be a buff, you don't need to be incredibly obsessed like me, but you get keys to enter that. And that and making sort of exhibitions that that work in layers, so that you could go there and see the first compositional structure and be, marvel at that, but you could go back again and get the next layer and the next layer next time. So you'd actually see an exhibition, or see the artwork actually the way it was intended, because 9 times out of 10 they actually did construct it in layers. So there was,
I guess it's like anybody that listens to this podcast only and then sits down and watches it after, that's 2 different experiences. You're getting, because if you listen to this episode, it's going to be us doing our best to describe what we see, or you doing your best to explain it. But once you look at it, it's going to be like, oh, that makes absolute sense now. I can see it. That's clearly what's going on. I this was a lot of fun. Let's wrap it up and let people ask you some questions, Luciano, and hopefully museums do adopt your artwork to put alongside the.
That'd be interesting,
because I think that would be fantastic. That would help people no end. Because as soon as you see one of your lovely colored pieces, it makes it so much clearer. Luciano, where can people find you? Also, we'll put your article in the show notes for the episodes. Find that and read that as well.
Well, mainly on Instagram, Children of Ash. That's where I published the majority of imagery and with related information, but also on Facebook, also Children of Ash. Or I'm even on LinkedIn with that. So
nice, perfect. Mags, where can people find you?
When I do post or am active on social media, you can find me on Instagram at ArcheoMags, Archeo with a K.
Nice.
Oh, and one thing, I forgot. I always forget that I also actually tattoo this stuff. So
you do, yeah.
Important.
Because I explain. And I explain all the details, and but it's all I actually use these languages to actually construct tailored tattoos with that kind of languages from migration period to the end of the Viking Age. So I do that on my page Notis Compungo. You can link it. It's a bit of a complex name.
Yeah. I need to have you tattoo me at some point.
Awesome. Yeah.
We need to do that. For me, it's Daniel_Farrand1, the business Horns of Odin, Nordic Mythology podcast across the board. Like I say, YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and watch these episodes, because there is a lot of visual aids. Not just this one. The last one with Ryan Exon was fantastic. Again, that needs to be watched. The
past few we've done have actually been extremely visually satisfying.
Yeah, Leszek brought a PowerPoint. Ryan blew it out of the park last week. Luciano, this has to be seen to be enjoyed and to really understand it and to get a grip with it. See what I did there? You need to see it. So please do just check it out on YouTube. And let's let people ask you some questions